What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jason. Today we're going to be working on my 2017 Chevy 2500 HD with the Duramax diesel. I'm going to be installing my brand new Banks Ram Air rear differential cover. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to see this video and all the other videos. Make sure you don't miss anything, but let's get into this project and get this done. All right everybody, we're under the truck here. So the first thing we're going to do is get the oil drained out of the rear differential. So all you need is 3/8 square drive. I'm just using a ratchet. There's a drain plug right in the bottom center of the rear diff. Just loosen up that plug. Remember, this is gear oil, so it stinks. You're going to want to try not to get any more of it on your hands than you have to. Wear gloves if you like. I'm going to pull that plug and let that oil run right out. I always like to inspect my drain plug. A little bit of like fluffy is always normal on these things. If you see any large enough metal pieces that you can actually like see that it's a metal sliver, you may have an issue inside, but I don't see anything that worries me. All right, so one of the things that I really like about Banks, they put care and they take a lot of pride into their products. So this is the box. It actually got to me the next day. I ordered, today's Thursday, I ordered it Tuesday evening at like 10 o'clock and it just got here today. It's about lunchtime. So anyway, shows up. I like their little prepare to smile here. That's cool. And then look how well packaged this thing is. They've got an extra piece of cardboard in the top. You get a nice letter here from Gail Banks telling you a little bit more about the cover. If you haven't already, check out the playlist they have on the research and development that went into these covers. I haven't seen anybody else do that amount of research work before they release a product. And I think that's honestly why I chose this cover, because I see what they did and they put a lot of time and effort into it, and I really think this is going to make an improvement in my truck. You get your owner's manual, instructions. It comes with a nice Banks Power sticker. And then inside is your actual differential cover. Again, nicely packaged. You get your hardware that comes with it. They're 12.10mm bolts. You got your sight glass and drain fill plugs, as well as the rubber O-ring for sealing it. And then the differential cover itself wrapped in a nice plastic bag. And I gotta tell you, this thing is heavy. I mean, they didn't cheap out on the casting. It's got a nice thick flange. You can see all the cooling fins on the inside, cooling fins on the outside. I mean, this is a quality product. I wouldn't have expected anything less from Banks, but if anything, it has exceeded my expectations. So I'm excited to get this thing put on the truck. It should increase the longevity of my rear, especially I do a lot of heavy hauling and towing, and should hopefully outlast me. So. Okay, the rear differential cover is held on with a bunch of 13mm bolts. I'm just going to use my impact to zip those out. Alright, these last couple bolts at the top I couldn't get to with the impact, so I just had to use the ratchet. And then factory cover pops right off. So I'm going to let that drip for a few minutes while I get the Banks cover ready to put on. Right before I stick that on, I'll give everything a little wipe down here to try to make sure that I don't have any false leaks or anything like that. Okay, so the factory differential cover, up at the top there's a place where a couple brackets attach. And I like that Banks left these bosses unshrouded so I can put all of those brackets back where they belong. So my brake lines will be supported. One of them is a support for the parking brake cable. All of those things will still be held up in place like they're supposed to be. I like that they did that. I've had other covers in the past that those bolt holes were shrouded and I had to eliminate those brackets, and I didn't like that. So you get your differential cover. You get a nice new rubber O-ring in the kit here. And then that O-ring gets put into the groove and pan. Now, if you've never done something like this before, take your time. Try not to stretch the O-ring. Usually, you end up having to squeeze them into the groove because they're a little bit longer than they need to be. So you don't want to stretch that O-ring anymore and make it even more difficult to try to squeeze it down into the groove. See, so I have just a tiny bit of extra length, but I can squish it down in. And as I work that around the pan, it'll stay seated flush right where it's supposed to be. Okay, so we're back under the truck. I'm gonna wipe off the sealing surface for the differential cover. All right, I got a rag wrapped over my rear differential just to try to keep as much dust and grime out of there as possible, and I'm gonna buff all this surface rust off. There we go. So, give this a nice wipe. Now the bank's instructions say to apply blue thread locking compound to the differential cover bolts. They include a nice little packet of that with it. And then once you have all the bolts started, to torque them to 22 pound-feet. I'm gonna get 2 bolts in here just to hold it in place. With no thread locker, and then I'll get the rest of them put in with thread locker. So, nice little packet blue thread locker they give you. With these, I always, kind of knead them around a little bit just to make sure it's mixed up. Thing to remember about thread locker is a dab will do it. Does not take much, just a teeny dab. Even that's probably more than is really needed. Okay, we've got all our cover bolts started. So now I'm going to go around, get them all snugged down with the ratchet, and then I'll go around with the torque wrench and get them all torqued. Banks recommends 22 pound-feet of torque. There we go. Okay, we've got all the bolts snugged. Now we're going to torque them to 22 foot-pounds. I got to tell you, this would probably be way, way, way easier on a lift. But I unfortunately don't have a lift. Okay, there we go. Cover all torqued. So, next I'm going to put my drain plug back in. Right back where it was. I'm going to check all of the plugs Banks put in just to make sure they're snug. The drain is pull this fill plug out. There we go. There's the fill plug. Man, they must have been in a hurry when they put that Teflon tape on, because that wasn't great. All right, so let me get the oil and we'll see if we can't dump our oil down in here. It holds 4 quarts. All right. It says it holds 4 quarts of oil. I bought 5 just to make sure I don't come up short, especially since I'm almost definitely gonna spill some of this. And I am filling this back up with Valvoline 75-140 full synthetic. You don't have to, you could just use 75-90 factory oil. You probably never have an issue, but I don't plan on being into this differential again until 100,000 miles or so. Yo. There we go. All right, well, we only spilled a little bit. Okay, so we need to put our sight plug in. It's starting to, I guess as it's running down, it's kind of getting over that spot. So your little sight plug seals with an O-ring. Just start it by hand. There we go. Uses a 24mm socket. Just a little hand snug. That's all that needs. Back to the squeeze of oil into this. Okay, we've got our 4 quarts in. I can see my oil level is right at the halfway mark in the sight glass. So I'm gonna Teflon tape this fill plug real quick. Remember, you don't need a lot. Do 1 wrap. Two wraps. That's all you need. Fill hole. And get that fill plug tightened down. I probably wouldn't need to do this if I hadn't spilled gear oil so much, but there we go. All right, well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Banks rear differential cover installed. I have a long trip this weekend, so should give me a good opportunity to see if it makes any difference in how the truck drives that I can feel. I'll be able to see if it makes any difference in my average fuel economy. Banks says it can help make your fuel economy better, so I wouldn't be upset about that. But I'll report back and let you know what I think after I've had it on here for a while. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. It helps me out, not to mention you won't miss any updates. And we'll see you in the next video. Take care.